There we go.
Do you think, though, that VAR would have sorted out the controversy in the 2006 World Cup match, Australia versus Croatia?
Well, you would hope so. You would hope so. Maybe we would have gone on to do the final. I think many people tipped to just we were heavily tipped to go on and do that, Ellie.
Yes.
And I'm not just saying that now because we're how many years later? 19 years.
Yeah.
But we were heavily. The English team were heavily tipped to do it. Yeah. We'd gone into the tournament with a lot of kudos. We were extremely. The fitness guru at FIFA said, "I love Dr. Werner Helsen, his name." I was speaking to him one afternoon. He said, "I love the English officials." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because you always turn up fit. You're fitter than most of the other boys. You're professional, even though some young lads aren't paid professionally. We love the English boys." So we were on kind of a foot on the ladder already, and we were doing all right.
So if you didn't make a mess up, you've got a great chance.
We've got a great chance, so long as England didn't get through, and they didn't.
Yes. Yeah.
Everything seemed to be, all the ducks were getting in a row, and then of course Graham pulled 3 yellows out, and the rest is history. And good for him selling books on the back of.
Yeah. And we've had conversations before about that.
Yeah.
That normally you were saying that Graham had said interact and everything, but he gave a different instruction that day.
He certainly, I'll give you the full story.
Please do.
Absolutely, yeah. I hope I'm not boring anyone.
No, you're not.
Who's already heard this, but I've got no reason other than to tell you the truth, the absolute truth, and nothing but the truth. I mean, what am I going to gain by not? And Graham has actually, I think, acknowledged now that what he wrote in his first book, he acknowledged that maybe he shouldn't have done so.
Yeah.
Anyway, the truth of the matter is, we had a Chilean observer, former referee from Chile, who was our observer on the day, and very early in the game, Graham pulled a yellow card out on Simic, the left back for Croatia. And earlier in the tournament, the one criticism he had faced on previous 2 games was, you are flashing your card. Slow down your process of yellow carding. It gives everyone time to breathe, gives the player time to relax a little, gives the television time to catch up. Everybody knows what's happening. You're flashing him too quickly, and he'd been told in 2 previous rounds he needs to slow down his process. That must have gone out the window because he flashed his card at the number 3. And, of course, later in the game, he flashed it again. Mark Viduka, who we obviously knew very well, he's Duke's been at Leeds and Middlesbrough, good lad. We were on great terms with him. And very much like this, we worked on an open mic system in that we didn't have to press a button to speak to Graham. He didn't have to press a button to speak to us. The only people that had to press to talk were the 4th and 5th officials on the benches. And very clearly, Phil and I both heard Dukes come up to Graham and say, "Polly, you've already booked him. And this is a family show, so I won't repeat exactly how Graham replied, but it was basically, you do your job and I'll do mine." And we heard Duke say, "I was only trying to help you," and off he trotted. And of course, he'd pulled 2 yellows out at that point. He then went to show him a 3rd yellow after the game when it was all kicking off. And anyway, but I mean, how Graham explained it to us, because what he told us pre-match, and you're absolutely right, he changed his pre-match instruction to Phil and I. And bearing in mind, this is a fellow we'd done hundreds of games with, home and abroad, and he always gave the same instructions of, if it's in your half, you're watching it with me, the dead end lino, you're the one doing the writing as well, and he changed it. For this game, it was Australia versus Croatia, and he said there's so much on this game, they really don't like each other. Australians and the Croats, there's a lot of angst between the two, and I don't want either of you two with your heads buried in a book, because if you do, there's every likelihood that somebody will see that you're not looking and put a sly punch in. So I want you two at all times watching the field of play. And we said, well, who's doing the writing then to double up for you? And they said they can do it on the bench, the 2 lads from America. And okay. So of course he's cautioned him in the 3rd minute or whatever it was. Neither Phil nor I have written anything down. He's cautioned him again, 2nd time in the game, neither Phil nor I have got a record of anything, because all we're doing is absolutely locking on to the fellas in front of us to make sure nobody's digging anybody out. So that's not me trying to absolve Phil or I of responsibility. If I'd messed up or I'd not followed his instructions, I would put my hand up and say, listen, we caused that.
And if it hadn't been a match with those tensions, you wouldn't have had that
No.
instruction.
No, not at all.
So-
Not at all. It's just very regrettable that he changed his instruction that day, because I am certain Phil or I would have, whoa, hang on, Polly, you've already stuck him in. And then to add insult to injury, of course, the reason Graham didn't pick up what he'd done, he used a very simple admin system, did Graham. A lot of referees, in fact most referees now, you'll see them, they pull the card out and they've got one of those marker pens and they write it directly on the card. Graham didn't. He had a little faint-lined notepad that you just flip the pages over on, and he just drew a line straight down the middle. One side it said Australia, one side said Croatia, and he wrote number 3 in the Australia side instead of the Croatia side the first time he cautioned him.
Right.
So when he cautioned him for the second time, he's opened his book, it says number 3 in the Australia side. So as far as he's concerned, he's already done their left back. He's got the wrong team. So, like I was saying earlier, kind of ducks were in a row for us to maybe go on and do the final. Too many ducks fell in a row for it to go wrong that day as well. But hey-ho, if it don't kill you, it makes you stronger, doesn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the absolute gospel truth of what happened that day.
You're hearing it straight from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
And I remember being in a neighbour's garage watching that on a little telly when I was, what would have been 12, and saying, I'm sure he's already booked him. I'm sure. And everyone was like, no, he won't have it. I was like, he is definitely.
Well, just kind of, if you want me to completely top and tail the story for you, we're back in the dressing room and we're all congratulating each other. The Chilean observer has come in. He's made us all go in a huddle. This is a fantastic team. This team will do the final. Brilliant performance, boys. He had no idea. Brilliant performance, boys.
Your Americans, number 5 and 6 or whatever, got no idea.
They've not. Well, the reason is because the benchers were causing them a problem. They weren't watching. They weren't doing the job, I'm afraid. They're saying too many ducks fell in a row that evening. It must have been in the wind for it all to go wrong. But anyway, the Chilean observer's come in. He's giving it big licks. You are a fantastic team. This team will go on to do the final. I switch my phone on. Phil switches his phone on. I get a message through from, I was married then, from my then wife, and she said, is everything okay? And I messaged her back. I said, absolutely fantastic. They love us. She said, and it came up on BBC that Graham's already cautioned the lad twice before he did show him a red card for the third one. She said, it must be the BBC being idiots. And I went, okay, it must be, because they love us here. Anyway, I speak fairly fluent Spanish.
Oh, right, okay.
And the Chilean observer got a call on his phone, so he's on his phone, and we're expecting it to be congratulations from headquarters. And I heard him say, tres amarillas, 3 yellows, and with a kind of questioning tone. So I'm hanging my tab on here, and the more I'm listening, I can feel I'm going a bit cold now, still 19 years later, and I'm listening, and I said, there might be a problem here, Graham. And Graham's going, in Graham's, it's a family show. he's telling me to go and get showered. He's gone into the next door room to have his warm down and his massage. Anyway, he's gone now, Graham has. And I'm sitting there still listening. Phil's gone in the shower and I'm listening to this Chilean talking to the headquarters. And he finishes his call and he said, you need to fetch Mr. Paul. And I said, why? He said, there is a big problem. And he's shattered because he's been giving us big licks, telling us we're great, we're going to go on and do the final. And I went to fetch Graham. And Polly, you need to come in. What's the matter? I'm having me rubbed out. What's the matter? I said, Graham, you need to come in. There's a problem. What kind of flipping problem? I don't know. I'm trying to keep the load out here. I can see this kicking off. Phil's come out of the shower. What's the matter, brother? I said, we need to gather. He wants to see us. The final bit of the complete farce of the evening took them 30 minutes to find a DVD player that would work. We've got a DVD player and a screen and a monitor in our room, nobody can get the damn thing to work. It took them 30 minutes of scurrying around to bring another one in, to plug it in, to make sure it worked, before they ran the DVD of the show. And as soon as the first caution came in,
you knew it was wrong.
Graham said, "Turn it off, I know what I've done."
Yeah.
We didn't watch anymore. We only watched the first 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was it.
And fortunately, I don't think it had any great effect on people going through or anything like that.
No. In fact, the Australian manager said, had we not gone through, we would have protested, and quite likely the game would have had to been replayed because it was through an error in law. Bizarrely, earlier in the competition, we'd gone overseas to re-referee a game that had been messed up by one of the Asian referees. And FIFA, who do they call? They called Polly.
Yeah.
You know, quite possibly
Ballbusters.
Quite possibly their number one referee.
Yeah.
Or certainly in the top 1, 2, 3 of the world. And who did they call for? We went over there, re-refereed a World Cup qualifying game for them, which went absolutely superbly well. So, like I say, we turned up at the tournament thinking we're in with a shout here.
Yeah.
and it all fell apart. Hey-ho.
What was your World Cup finals experience like right from the beginning, like being appointed